welcome Pam, Natalia, and Amy. Those who are watching later on, you're all very welcome too. Optimum Healing State. Welcome to the Optimum Healing State ALS support group. This is a confidential meeting. Anything personal that is shared is private to the meeting. Share the newsletter, share what helps you, share what inspires you in your own experience, and be respectful. Why we're here and what we are doing here. Our aim is to develop the optimum healing state for living with and fighting ALS-MND. Since ALS is a systemic chronic terminal illness that affects body, emotion, and mind, we are faced with a challenge few people understand. This challenge requires an approach that takes into account the overwhelming difficulties we face. We recognize two facts. Firstly, we have health. If we did not have any health, we would already be dead. The fact that our body exchanges oxygen for carbon dioxide is an ongoing act of healing. We are here because we have health and we are here to heal. The aim of this group is to support the movement from health to healthier. The second fact we recognize is the reduction of stress is an act of health. In order to get our mind and emotions in a healthier place, we choose to reduce stress, and at the same time, we face the fact of our illness and mortality. We apply the method of small steps, where we make the smallest choices we can imagine that are healthy for us. If this is a choice, is to focus on our breathing or on the fact that we are alive, we are acting towards our health. It is essential to make choices which we can succeed at. Living with ALS-MND and reversing the damage it's caused is made up of thousands of small choices. In this group, we focus on these small choices, what we are doing, our success and difficulty, and what we will do. Our body is always healing. By reducing stress and giving ourselves successful choices, we are helping the body to heal. We accept we don't control the outcome of our choices or things beyond our control, but we can make choices to help our healing process every day of our lives. So optimum healing state is really about an inner transformation. And for that reason, there's a focus on meditation. Not that it will solve things, but it is a key, a fundamental step to take in our inner transformation. It provides us with the ability to take steps which otherwise we can't. So everybody can have their own type of meditation, but these are some of the common features that we need to explore through meditation and notice and apply. And they're common in all types of meditation. Practice of meditation is a process of tuning in. The process of meditation is the practice of tuning in. As you hear this voice, you're tuning in to what I'm saying. When you're tuned in, you can experience the attitude and awareness behind the words. When you practice meditation, you listen to your environment. You become sensitive to your experience. At the same time, there can be lots of internal activity, noise, and busyness. Often we get caught up with these inner preoccupations. And in meditation practice, we notice this. When tuning in to our inner environment, we have moments of self-awareness, noticing ourself that is aware. Good meditation practice is continuously tuning in to this awareness. Anything can be used to support this natural process. We're tuning in to our physical experience as a means of noticing the act of awareness. So by following my words and the connection to self-awareness, that I'm aware, that I'm aware, and notice that you are aware of being aware. Looking at the clouds, the sky behind, or even the inside of our eyelids when our eyes are closed. Notice that you are simply seeing and that you are aware that you are seeing. We're listening to the sounds of nature, music, random sounds, or the sounds of silence or a high-pitched whistle we sometimes hear inside ourselves when everything else is quiet. And just listening to that quietness and being aware that we're listening to the quietness and the random sounds. Experiencing the movement of air into and out of the lungs. That sensation of air moving, whether we're on a machine or not, the air is moving and we're simply paying attention to that and being aware that we're aware of this sensation. We're noticing the weight of our body, the contact points with chair, with bed. There are more sensations, experiences in the present, which are just happening. And we're aware of them happening when we put our attention on them. And we become aware of our awareness. But often we have reactions, emotions, and thoughts. Their energy captivates us, even though we want different. We become aware of that too, and choose to notice ourselves being aware. There's something deeply peaceful about self-awareness. In the act of awareness, we experience unconditional calmness, acceptance, and the knowledge that we are alive. So we'll take a silent minute. Welcome everybody. Pam, Natalia, Amy, John, Eric, and Sherry, and those who are watching later. You're all very welcome to be here at Optimum Healing State. Well, I've had a lot of other things on my mind today, so my mind is feeling a little bit crowded. So hopefully that doesn't take away too much from having the focus with you guys and what we're doing here. But I mention that because this is the challenge we're all faced with at different times, when our mind is preoccupied with things which are not supporting us to be healthy in this moment in time or at a given moment. This is one of the things that we have to deal with, especially in the context of having a degenerative illness. It puts even more pressure and stress on us. So there is no escaping dealing with the inner challenges. And so this is an opportunity of facing the inner challenges. And we might be very willing to do that, but not really have the right tools to do it. We might be willing to do that, but just find ourselves being overwhelmed when we try to. And that's what developing the different tools are for. So one of those tools is noticing that we have health. And that even if our mind is a bit deranged, I'm thinking about my own today, even if our mind is a bit deranged, where we're not in a healthy state of mind, the mere fact that we're thinking, we're preoccupied, that we're alive, means we have health. And we can ask ourselves, if we remember, when our minds are preoccupied and unsettled, even in this moment, do I have health? Do I have any health? The irrefutable answer is yes. Not the health that we used to have, and I suppose not the health that we will have at some time in the future. But right now, the mere fact that we're alive means we have health. And for me, that's like a really comfy couch to lie down on, to relax, to let go, to put the feet up. I have health. Because we're in those unsettled states of mind. We don't feel that. We don't think it. We're feeling and thinking and experiencing something different. This is also undeniably true. Even though I've got all this mess going on, I still have health, because if I didn't, I wouldn't even have this mess going on. And that gives us a different perspective, which isn't entirely caught up with the mess that can be in our mind and emotions. And we need to cultivate different perspectives, healthier perspectives. And it's normal to have unhealthy perspectives. It's impossible not to have inherited them. There are unhealthy perspectives in the culture we grew up in our families, in our whatever, in our societies, and so on. So that's something which isn't avoidable. It wasn't avoidable. Now we're developing a position where we can challenge that. Yes, I have these different difficulties. And even with these different difficulties, I still have health. I'm alive. And even choosing to notice that I have health, that's itself is a small choice. So when we practice that small choice of having health, noticing that I have health, and maybe I feel sad about that because of my circumstances, but that's a healthy response. Or maybe I feel frustrated about it. That's also a healthy response, because you're actually responding with your life, because you're alive and responding. And no response at all would probably be a lot worse. Because as long as we have response, we can do something. If we have no response, then it becomes a lot harder to do something. And there's all different kinds of responses that we can have, like sadness and frustration. We can also have the response of acceptance. This is a different type of response. This is not rejecting our inner turmoil or mess or our physical circumstances and difficulties. Sorry, Pam, we'll see you again. You can be well. And it takes time to go deeper and deeper into this. It's not a matter of recognizing it with our mind. Oh yeah, I know that. We can know everything intellectually, but that has a sort of superficiality to it, which doesn't give us much. We need to take an extra step out of recognizing something being true with our mind, which is fine, but we need to go further than that. Because our mind is very fickle, it tends to be. It can change, it's very changeable. And to notice this, to penetrate the truth that we have, takes more than simply recognizing it as true. It's finding that it's true within ourselves, within our being. And the very fact that we can engage with this question, with this inquiry, is incredibly healthy. From some perspectives, this is one of the healthiest things we can actually do as human beings. This process of transformation from what we've inherited and the difficulties that we experience on a daily or weekly or whatever basis. And our transformation, not simply away from them, or not simply the transformation of them, but the transformation with them. And so acceptance is a really essential step in that. And some things are very difficult to accept. It's really, really hard to accept. Some things might be impossible for us to accept. And we can ask ourselves the question, is it possible for me to have some acceptance of this? And sometimes it's not. Because whatever it is, as soon as we open ourselves to it, as soon as we try to establish a connection with that part of ourselves, we're immediately overwhelmed. And that happens, that we can have things like that. And it means that we can learn from it. We can accept, first of all, that we're overwhelmed by this thing. So already, by accepting that we're overwhelmed by it, we're changing our position. That small choice is already making an inner difference. And the method that I prescribe is to focus on something that you can have some acceptance of, not total acceptance, because that's a kind of absolute term, which it's very hard to live up to. It's very hard to be successful with absolute terms. So we don't look for absolute acceptance. Some acceptance with it. A little acceptance, that's okay. Even an iota, minuscule amount of acceptance, any acceptance, that works as well. Because if I can have any level or degree of acceptance, then I've accepted that I have some acceptance. It's still changing. When I developed this method, which was before I knew anything about ALS, before I had any concern about having a neurological illness, and the illness affected me in a profound emotional way. It was like my emotional engine had been changed, and I went from a city Ford to a Ferrari or something like that. And for something, or a hybrid, right, to a Ferrari. So my emotional reactions would be intense. And that added so much difficulty because I didn't know how to even deal with these emotional reactions because I didn't have them before. So as part of this emotional craziness that was going on, one of the feelings that came up was the feeling of worthlessness, not feeling like I was worth anything. It's the feeling that I had no value. My life didn't have any value. I wasn't worth anything. And there was nothing I could do because this feeling was going on for quite a while. It was perpetuating. And I didn't have this feeling before in my life. So it took me quite some time to recognize it. And eventually I did recognize it. And I was shocked that I was feeling this way and had been for a while. And because I'd spent so many years meditating and developing inner resources, yeah, I was really a bit devastated by finding out that this was a really strong feeling I had, and I couldn't just pretend that I didn't have it, or I couldn't just, there's no simple solution to it. I couldn't just climb out of it and go, oh yes, well, I'm doing this now, so it's okay. it was really deep. And I considered, what can I do? And I imagined that, if the having the right direction, which was, feeling valuable, or, that's part of the right direction. And that's not the way I was faced. So anything I did to face the right direction, just turning towards the right direction, that in itself, before even taking a step in it, just turning towards it, that itself is worth doing. That itself is the right movement to take. So I don't need to try and solve everything and complete the whole journey and try to imagine that, because that's just overwhelming. All I need to do is in some way turn a little bit towards it. And if it's very specific, and returning towards it at all is overwhelming and we can't deal with it, then we need to find something else which is less challenging. That's simply it. That we can, is it possible for me to meet this kind of challenge? I can't face the depression that I feel sometimes, but can I face the acceptance that I feel sometimes? Well, yeah, I can actually. Yeah, I accept things. And there's no conflict in that. There's a peacefulness in it, and it's a true and real thing. We're not inventing something. We do have to find things which are real and true for us. And if that's a challenge, we can talk. We have the space here to talk that out. The aim of this is workshops, in optimum healing state, not just me talking. And it's these simple steps that we need to take, or need to practice every day. Because if we don't take the steps, then we're not changing. We have to accept that, Changing means taking steps which are change. Being healthier means taking steps of being healthier. We don't need to focus on emotional issues. We can focus on what are the healthier steps that I can take. And one of the first ones that I advocate is learning to become calmer. Is it possible for me to be calmer in this situation in relation to whatever? They're the details that you fill in. Stuff which is in the present is always the best, because then you're trying to engage with what's happening and important for you now, because that's why it's in your mind or on your emotions. Is it possible for me to respond calmer with this? And if I can respond a little calmer, how can I respond to it? What is my slightly calmer response? So we can ask ourselves questions, and this is the nature of a reflection, really. We can ask ourselves questions, and these questions help us in very small steps to journey into where we are. And these small steps are steps of transformation. If I'm becoming calmer with my circumstances or with whatever the given issue is or the specific symptom is, I'm calmer with it, then I'm in a healthier place with it. A lot of my reversal I put down to these things. Learning, even in terrible circumstances, to preserve a bit of my own inner space. I guess I had it already. My own inner space, which was unconditionally calm. And I wouldn't even try to go as far as to step into it and out of where I was at, whatever that might have been. I wouldn't even try to push my image that far. I just imagine myself leaning towards that unconditional calmness. So even if it's not something which is being felt in the present, just imagining that unconditional calmness, which is part of reality and somehow, in some undefinable way, part of us. And so we can imagine ourselves leaning towards it. So we're not trying to reject other things from our life, because we don't even need to do that. Simply by leaning towards that calmness has a calming effect. It's like blocking the stream and the stones being taken away, and the water, cooling water of the mountain stream flowing down. We're just leaning into it. It's like removing those, the dam, the blocks in it, the obstructions. And really, we could go and say that, meditation process is a process of leaning. The idea of tuning in and leaning towards, they're very similar, really. They're descriptive, of course. So that I think the meaning of them is very, very similar. Leaning in or tuning in. Sometimes you go tune in. Oh, I can't hear it. So even leaning in, okay, I can't hear it, but I'm leaning towards where that sound is coming from. I'm leaning towards where that calmness is coming from. So it's really a matter of using and developing the steps which support us. So for me, at some stage, tuning into something, it was too much. Just leaning towards it, there's even less effort. There's no effort, and just leaning in, I don't really have to imagine myself even moving at that, So it's very graceful, it's very restful, it's very undemanding. And so by leaning into this unconditional calmness, we're changing how we are, because we're giving ourselves an experience of which is different than being caught up with all the other stuff. It's non-judgmental. Unconditional calmness doesn't really care about our judgments, actually. It's the same, it has the same response to us, whatever mood we're in, or whatever we're thinking about. It has the same reality. It doesn't change. So by practicing, and sometimes when we're not in the mood can be a good time to go along and to lean into unconditional calmness. An effortless lean into it. Even just for a few minutes. Really, that's fine. And if it's working for us, that's fine. We want to continue, that's okay. But if it's a struggle, then maybe we go back to the acceptance. I'm struggling with this. I accept I'm struggling. But then this acceptance has a calmness to it. So in our acceptance of our struggle, we find calmness. the calmness is there. It's not foreign or alien. We can find it. It's pretty neat, really. There's something, there's kind of a, dare I say it, a sort of magical quality to it. For some people, it's a religious quality. I recognize some of what I'm describing as being part of religious processes. We're not doing that here because that's not what we're here for. We're here for the healing process. And you have healing processes as part of some religions. So you can find parallels. And it doesn't matter where we find our parallels. If we find parallels that work for us, we can use them. We don't have to, when I say work for us, it means that we're not trying to force ourselves. We're not trying to make ourselves fit something else. But we find that, oh yeah, that fits me. So possibly when we're finding we're having an off day, when we notice that right there and then, and we notice it, we make a small choice to lean in. We notice it. It means we've accepted that, hey, this is going on right now. We accept that this is going on right now, and we lean in to the calmness which also exists. And we just try that. We just do it for a couple of minutes. Even if there's other people around or whatever's going on, we try and step into that calmness a little bit, rest inside it. Recently, I was reading somewhere, I've already forgotten, how resting is a type of meditation. I didn't actually really realize that there is a whole tradition of meditation related to resting. And so it doesn't matter what position your body is in to have resting meditation. Well, it needs to be in a non-stressful position, I suppose. And if we can't change our position, then can we accept that and rest in our acceptance? So acceptance gives us that space where we can take a breath and rest, where we give up the struggle to change. And by giving up the struggle to change, we change. That's the paradox of it. But if we force ourselves to change, if we demand ourselves to change, then we're putting ourselves under pressure and stress, which is, in the healing process, one of the things we don't want to do. So finding activities or music, or it really doesn't matter what it is, or meditation, it makes no difference to me. Things that we find restful and that we can take a rest in. Recently, I found that, I've been listening to audiobooks for quite a few years now. Ever since, I kept falling asleep reading a book, so I'd read the same paragraph 10 times and still wouldn't know what I read. So I kind of gave up reading books then and went on to audiobooks. But recently I found that listening to audiobooks, I'm actually losing some of my space for resting. It's kind of distracting me a bit when I don't need to be distracted. Actually, I need to be more present, just resting, not making any big effort, just resting. So there's this depth or opportunity in resting, being aware, conscious, and resting. So that's resting meditation, very simply. You have this process of accepting going on. Because we're not trying to change anything, we're having a rest. So we'll just accept whatever thoughts or feelings or whatever's going on in our mind and emotions. We just accept it. Yeah, this is it now. And this, and this. There was a lovely meditation I thought years ago. I think he called it and this was the name of the meditation. And I'll see if I remember his name. It might come back to me. And yeah, his whole meditation was that whatever came into our consciousness, that we choose to include it in our meditation. So I'm feeling that I want to do something else. And this, I'm not sure what I'm doing. And this, does this work? And this, I wish I could run around the place. And this, I wish people respected me. And this, and just everything that comes in. And this I accept, and in this moment in time, I accept this is my thought and feeling. And this, I accept I'm feeling sad. I accept I'm feeling kind of happy, and I don't know why. And this, I accept I've been making excuses for myself. And this, I accept that I haven't been making the effort I wish I had been making. And this, all the judgments we have about ourselves. And this, just accepting them all. Because when you've accepted all of that, if you can imagine the possibility of you accepting all your thoughts and feelings, they all become a bit quieter because they've been listened to, they've been accepted, not rejected. And we know that ourselves as people. When somebody listens to us and accepts our point of view, our feelings, our opinion, when they really accept it, say, yeah, yes, that is how you feel, that is what you think. It's lovely. And we just feel better. Even if nothing's changed, we feel, yeah, we're definitely talking to the right person. And we can be that right person for ourselves. Sometimes anyway, because sometimes we can't. And this, sometimes I can't do things right. And this, sometimes or often I feel like I can't do things right. And this. And we keep including that acceptance more and more. We keep accepting it. And every time we accept it in, it's like a wave coming in. And we no longer, after a time, we're no longer trying to stop the waves from coming in. We just accept the waves are going to come in. We just accept it. We're open to it. We're no longer defensive about it or feeling compelled that we have to change this. And that breaks the pattern. And so the waves change. And, to some degree. So these really simple things are, for me, absolutely key in transformation, in facing the difficulties that we have, in continuously putting our mind into a healthier state. You know, I suffered from terrible medical abuse by doctors. It's an unbelievable story what they did, and it's typically Irish. It's a kind of, it's in our culture where you have this people in positions of power abusing it and getting away. It's really horrendous. And there are worse kinds of abuse, but you know, in this position of, you know, having a terminal illness, it's, you know, really despicable. But yeah, people are like that. And so even with all of that and becoming homeless, because I became homeless, you know, I wasn't able to find somewhere to live. I didn't have the resources to do it, and all the problems, that was one of the results. And even during all of that, it was to find this place of acceptance. I already had it. And this is why I'm speaking about it and bringing it to the forefront of your minds and your imaginations, so that you can use it as well. And I think I feel like I've said enough. It's just 5 to, so that was good timing. So I don't know if, you know, might be all feeling very relaxed and calm and that. I'm feeling very nice. So unless you have some questions or there's something special you want to say, we just might spend the next few minutes, the next 5 minutes, you know, appreciating some of the things which have stood out in the last hour, or you can just be open and accepting to your thoughts and feelings. And you get good at it, you know, when you've been doing it for a while, you end up experiencing a quieter place because the struggle has decreased. So it can get kind of quiet and even boring. And we can accept that this is a quiet space. I'll wish you a lovely week. Take care of yourself, be kind to yourself. And take the small steps of discovery and transformation and healing which are available to you in the present.